what is the name of your podcast?
Older but never old.
Older but never old. Well, that's perfect.
So, well, it's, the idea, it's a phrase that I've said for years. Even I think I said it like in my 30s. It always bothered me when somebody's like, oh, I'm old, or I'm old. When somebody says I'm old, and I say this so often, but it feels so permanent, like a destination, like you've arrived someplace.
Right.
And I think it's such an excuse. And over the years, during COVID, I was, right after COVID, I was getting my hair cut at this place, and I think I was, I don't know, 47 at the time, and this lady's going on about life and how hard it is when you're her age and just doesn't understand. And she's like, because I'm 45, and when you get 45, and I was like, I'm 47.
I'm past you.
I'm older than you.
Yeah.
And she was like, oh, you must have taken better care of yourself.
I think life's gotten better for me as I've gotten older.
Have you?
I do. I mean, just maybe not. Well, I mean, health-wise, I did a bunch of things to fix that, but I think just in general, general perception.
That's a great way to start. So, first of all, happy 60th birthday. That's why we're on this cruise, right?
It is, and I'm so glad you and Tara came.
Oh, I'm very excited. Wouldn't have missed it. So we were very excited when we got the invite. So when you hear happy 60th birthday, which your family's been singing to every moment they can get.
Every time.
What emotions does that conjure for you?
I mean, everybody says 60 is just a number, and they're right. But I do think back when I was 25 or 30, I thought, gosh, if I can just make it to 60,
That was like your end point?
Well, I mean, I didn't really have an end point, but it seems so old. And now that I'm there, it doesn't seem old.
It just seems normal.
Yeah, it just seems normal.
I think that's with a lot of people. It's when you're in those younger years, you're always, it's like in your 20s, you just think life just goes on forever. And so you don't think your choices have weight to them.
Right.
But speaking of that, if you could go back in time and talk to like 30 or 40-year-old Lisa, what would you tell her?
Oh, geez, so many things. Probably just to stay more in the moment. You get so caught up with distractions and outside influences, and you lose track of what truly can be important, and that can be professionally, personally, all kinds of things, but just to enjoy the moment.
And so being like enjoying the moment, like you did something which was not enjoy the moment. You decided a few years ago to start your own company.
Oh, yeah.
So what, I think there's this like narrative around, there's an expiration date around reinventing yourself. Do you think, what was the, I guess like, what made you decide to do it?
That's like, I get asked that all the time. And I think that as this business has progressed, people have lost track of truly some of the important aspects of it, which is going back to just basic customer service. And as much as corporate America can offer you, it can also hinder you from doing a lot of things that you really want to do. And so that was really the turning point for Chris Morris and I. A few things that happened that, we just thought were just off the path. And so we just made a decision. It was really pretty spontaneous, actually, the way it all happened. I think you may have heard the story now.
Yeah, I've
Blake,
heard some of the bits and pieces of it. Yeah,
it was really pretty spontaneous. It happened in super hyper speed, but I don't have any regrets. I mean, I enjoyed the time that I got, where I was at, but this has been good. I mean, it brings a whole nother, as you know, being a business owner, you have a whole nother set of worries and concerns. But
so going to that, like, what does day to day look like? I mean, what worries, concerns, and are you good with them?
Yes, I am good with them. I think the best part of being a business owner is you can control the culture. You have a huge, it's just being able to control the culture. You set the tone for the culture of the company. You know that.
Yeah.
But you do worry. You have a lot of people that depend on you, for their livelihood, and so there can be some pressure from that. But I have a lot of trust and faith, and I pray over my business all the time. I know you do as well.
You have to.
I do. I pray for God to connect me with the right people at the right time. And it's interesting to me, in leaving where I left and being in this business for so long, there have been a lot of people that have hung on with me for a long time, but I also have a whole new sphere of people now. It's been really good.
It's like kind of like that Jerry Maguire. Who's coming with me?
I know, right? Right, exactly.
And then talking about that, you're mentioning like corporate America, and you're an independent company, but how many offices do you have now?
We have 5 that are up and running. We are in the process of building out our 6th office in Lawton, and you don't know this yet because this is not for public knowledge, so let's just tell everybody here, we are opening an Edmond office in downtown Edmond.
Oh, fantastic.
So that will be done in the next 6 weeks or so. So I think that's a real hop-in location, so we're super excited about that.
We're at Edmond?
Downtown Edmond.
Oh,
You're gonna ask me.
okay. So
In truly in downtown
Oh,
Edmond.
there's a lot of great offices. You can capture a lot of
great
business down there.
offices. Yes.
Well, that's fantastic. And so, how do you keep that so growing? How many people now at the company?
I think we have 67.
67.
67 employees.
So
that includes the 4 of us owners, so 67 total.
So 67 people. What's the plan to keep culture? Because it's easy to keep culture when you're in 1 or 2 offices, but now you're at 67 people, 7, 8 growing locations are adding every year.
Right. Oh, goodness, Peter, that's a tough question. It's not really a tough question. I think culture is a mindset, and I think you just have to keep positivity. There are hard decisions that you have to make sometimes, but it's just doing it in the right way, and
I was reading this, there's this post, and I think I didn't read the book, but there's a book called, it said Stop with the Toxic Positivity. And I thought that was interesting. I had to think about it for a little bit, and I really don't think I think positivity becomes toxic when it's not authentic.
Agreed 100%.
So many people, that it's raining, it's lightning on them, there's thunder, and they're like, no, everything's wonderful.
Right.
But you can enjoy the suck, you can enjoy the bad things.
You can.
But I think that toxic positivity is when you ignore life around you. So when you think about I think I ran on a talk when you're talking about being positive like that. I think it's like when it's authentic to your soul.
Sure.
People see that.
Well, we talk about that on social media. We had that conversation last night that you can have this picture on social media that you want everybody to think everything is this white picket fence in this house, and I mean, you got to be authentic with people.
And I just think, for me, I think when people are not authentic when they're saying like, anything from life is so amazing, business is so great, marriage is so wonderful, and then the next post is I'm getting divorced and I'm going to jail for whatever, and like the world all falls apart. I just think to myself, it's like, well, why were you doing that before? Was that for you? Was that for likes and posts?
Right. What was it for?
What
is your motive? You need to have a good motive when you do your social media. What are you trying to accomplish? But you said about culture. I think it's surrounding yourself with like-minded people. You asked that, so I think you want to be selective on who you bring in to be on your team. We've identified, Chris, Tony, Melissa, and I have identified our next group of leaders that we want to kind of transition more into more roles.
Okay, so you're already starting that next.
We
step
are
of
starting
leadership.
that next set of leadership. That is something you asked what 60 meant to me. I mean, am I on a retirement plan? I mean, I feel I'll have. My goal is to maybe work 5 more years. If I have to go more than that, it's fine. But that's kind of my goal. But in that 5 years, I'd like to make some transitions. And I still have a lot to offer in this industry. I still love being at the table, but will I be doing that 10 hours a day? Maybe not, but I'll still be pouring into the industry.
So what do you think is I have 2 questions that jump from that, but the first one being, what surprised you the most when you about running your own company?
Oh goodness, I haven't thought of that. Let me think about that. Ask me the next question.
Okay, so then I guess the second question would be, I lost my train of thought on that
You're
one
fine.
myself.
It's okay.
I was waiting for the first answer, but we'll just jump.
Okay.
We'll come back to that. So, were there any fears? So, we're talking about being authentic. Were there any fears when it first came up?
Sure. When you worked for corporate America before,
I have.
and if you ever talked about doing your own thing, you would hear, one bad transaction, you'll have to close your doors, or all these different things. So yes, did that worry me? Yes, but I also, I just knew it was the right time. I just felt it was the right time. Everything fell into place.
What's so interesting about that? It's so true. Like when I worked for corporate, everything was like, Tara tried to get me to join her in real estate for years, and it came to like a very, like a car crash to really get me to quit, because, same thing. It was like I didn't realize at the time, but all the people who were telling me, corporate's the way to go, build up, stay in the company, that's where the most protection is. They were all people who were afraid to do their own thing. If I would have went to the founder of the company and said, what do you think about starting your own business? He probably wouldn't have told me, don't do it.
Right.
He would have,
encouraged you and said, yes, you can do this.
Yeah, it's the workers and the managers in the wheel who don't want you don't look outside the windows, don't see what else is out there.
Right.
So yeah, I'm 100% on that. I think it's so funny that they talk about that. So with age, what strengths do you think come with being older that younger entrepreneurs don't have or will have to develop? Other than wisdom. Wisdom's a cop out.
I think that And I don't want to be negative at all, but I think work ethic, I think that we have a younger generation who doesn't have the same work ethic, but I don't think that necessarily has to do with, it could have to do with age. I don't know. I think life experiences, I try to learn from every situation. And I'm still, every time I make a mistake, because I make them and I own them and I try to grow from them. I don't try to make excuses.
Yeah.
Well,
you never learn. If you don't ever take ownership of it, it means that if you say, well, it's not my fault, well, then that means that there was nothing in that situation you could fix. So that means there's nothing you could ever do about it.
Right. And sometimes you just have to say, I'm sorry. That goes a long way.
Yeah, apologizing. It's tough.
No, it is. But sometimes that's the best thing you can do. I had a closing a couple of weeks ago, and I had just gotten my laptop for home because I'm going to have an office at home. I could have always had an office at home. I just didn't. But anyway, so I have this new laptop, and I'm going in and I'm adding my signature line to my email on the new laptop, and I accidentally put our phone number in wrong by 1 digit. And so we had a customer who wanted to wire his funds for closing, and he was calling that phone number to verify and couldn't get me, and he thought we were trying to defraud him.
Oh, no.
And so it was awful. So he came into closing, and I just said, here's the deal. Here's what I did. I didn't mean to. It was the wrong number. We weren't trying to defraud you. I truly just made a typographical mistake in the email signature line, but because I did that, I'm going to not charge you a closing fee because we gave you so much stress. And he's like, thank you so much. That's,
just taking ownership of it.
Just taking ownership of it.
Yeah,
it really was an accidental thing, but still, he was so upset and so worried, and it caused him so much stress that I just said, we'll just take your closing fee off, and I really am sorry. And anyway.
I got an email this morning from one of the girl named Diane in our property management OKC Management, our property management company, and we had transitioned our website, and I had added all of our emails and all throughout the whole site, and every email was spelled. I forgot an E in OKC Management for the email, so she was like, "Hey, none of the emails are going through on our site." So I had to go through. That's one of the things I worked on this morning.
Yeah.
For
every single one
just
of
a
them.
small one. I'm like,
right.
I had like the little. I sent her back the smiley face with the sweat. So sorry, thank you. Just like all of a sudden.
You didn't want to think that you might not be able to see as well.
It was like all of a sudden somebody just went, "Nope, we're not seeing up close anymore."
Do you have to wear reading glasses?
Yes, well, things get a little bit blurry.
Right.
So I think I haven't had to change my phone to the giant font yet.
Oh yeah.
I
think it hits about the mid 40s.
Yeah, it does.
It just does.
It kind of hit me there. Right. So a lot of these questions we've kind of already hit a little bit, so we're going to have to just go a little bit. But
that's fine. We can talk about whatever.
So when we talk about like success, so we were mentioning earlier like wisdom and how things change and life experiences. How has success changed in your mind from 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, and going into the 60s? What does success look differently now than compared to 20, 30 years ago?
Well, everybody has a different opinion of what success is to them. I think in my 20s, I thought success was having a huge bank account, financial success. Which, yes, that is a form of success, but I think just as I got older and had an appreciation, now I think it's successful if I feel good physically. Honestly, think about that. That's success.
Yeah. That's gratitude though too.
It is. I think success is pouring into others and having them be successful. The mentorship part of it. You guys are so good at that.
Seeing people grow, I get that question a lot, like, why do I like coaching people? Why do I like doing different things? Even why do I do this? It's like, I love when I'm having a conversation with somebody and you see that light click. Right. When they're struggling with something and through like a coaching conversation, I'm able to like ask that one question that makes them, they usually go home and say, I was so mad, not at you, well, maybe at you, but you asked me this question and made me rethink my life or rethink this moment, and I'm like,
that's what it's about.
That's success to me.
Right. Well, you've known me for a long time. In the industry, professionally. What do you see that has changed about me over the last 5 years?
I think it flows back into exactly what you said, the development and the growth aspect of it. I don't know if you were ever a fear-based before, but I think moving out of, when worked for the previous company, it seemed like the answer was no a lot. You know what I'm saying? And everything had to be like in this
in a box. Yeah.
And it had to flow there, and if it didn't go there. And so I think that part to I've seen the most in your growth is being able to say, okay, let's stop and think about this. Let's stop and think about this. Right. Let's stop and think about this. And I think it's solving 99% of the issues where, you know, when we refer people over to legacy, that's the one thing I always talk about is like, you know, it's like, it's being able to, if you have, it's not a problem until it's a problem. And when it becomes a problem, you need a title company that's going to stop and say, okay, wait a minute, let's get the attorneys, let's get the owners involved, and let's do a risk versus reward situation. Let's take a look at like, what are we really talking about? And then if the answer is no, then at least, you know, like, here's all the things that we tried, and this is what we're thinking. I tell, like, I run a brokerage as well, you know, and I always tell my agents, like, my job, when you come to me with not a problem, but like a situation of how to do a contract or how to write something, or, you know, something that's outside of the box real estate wise to make a deal work. My job's not to tell you no. My job's to say, okay, let's talk about it and let's figure out the right way to do this that takes care of the client, meets all the Oklahoma City laws, meets all the Oklahoma City Real Estate Commission rules, all the regulations, but still figures it out. And I think so far, I've had to say no twice when I couldn't figure it in, but the second one I'm pretty proud of. The agent came back and said, I have an idea. It was actually the agent that said, I have a solution, here's how we can do this. And I was like, we can, but yes and no. And then we were able to box it out and able to take care of a seller that needs to sell a house and take care of like a multitude of different little issues that were keeping that from closing. So
I do like that part of ownership, is being able to dive into those things. And because I am very solution minded, I think I've said this to you before, I have many realtors who will call me, and I'm not even the title company on the transaction, call me for advice on how to get a deal closed. And I tell them, this is what you need to ask your title company to do.
Yep. So. And then next time, just come here.
Yeah, next time, just come here and you don't have to call me.
No, I get agents, the same thing. Agents call me, it's like, yeah, that's
let me pick your brain.
Yeah, and it's like, okay, well, you know, technically I need to talk to your broker because I can't give you broker advice, but it's the same thing. It's you know, when I get interviewed for joining the brokerage, I always let them, you know, we sit down and say, you know, I always say what kind of questions you have, and you know, they treat it, I always pause them like 10 minutes into it, and I say, you know, this is fantastic. I feel like you think I'm interviewing you, and they just kind of look at me. It's like, I'm not interviewing you to join the brokerage, right? I mean, I'm going to find out if you fit our culture. That's the most important thing. You're going to fit our culture, and we're going to discuss that in the conversation. But I need you to ask questions because you're interviewing me. You're hiring me to be your broker. Yes, your license has to sit with me, but my goal, you know, we have a $14,000 cap. My goal is for you to give me $14,000. If you pay me $14,000, what does that make you to me? And they always kind of look at me, I was like, client.
Right.
You're my client.
That's right.
I said, so interview me.
That's right.
Like, interview me. Do you want to hire me? And you can always see them, can I think for a minute?
I never thought of it that way.
Like, yeah, and it's like, okay, and I think that's like the same thing when you're in leadership or you're running a title company. All these agents are clients. All the clients are clients.
Absolutely.
So figuring out the way to say yes, I think is
absolutely.
Hugely
well,
important.
I mean, I tell people all the time, I want the deal to close. Trust me. I mean, I don't like that there's a title issue because I don't make money unless we close the transaction. I mean, let's be real. You don't.
Yeah.
You know, so.
And that's our job. You know, so when somebody's like, you just want to earn that commission. I'm like, well, I do, but the way I do it is making sure that everything happens out great. But you're 100% right. Yeah, I think I interviewed with somebody, and they ended up not joining the brokerage, but she said, well, I interviewed with somebody else, and they said that you're very money motivated. And I said, well, I absolutely am. And they were like, what do you mean? I was like, no, how I do it is important to me. I said, but if you're getting in the real estate because you're not motivated to make money, then
you're not going to be successful.
You're not going to be successful because it's a commission-based job.
Right.
It's like well, I just really want to help people. I'm like, well, here's a list of volunteer programs
that you can do to help people.
If you're really helping people is not helping them buy a house. You're bullshitting yourself.
Right. It's funny that you say that because I have a conversation with the staff all the time because, you know, I feel like, and tell me if you see this pattern too, but I feel like once a file's clear to close now, even if it's 3 weeks before the closing date, realtors are pushing to get them closed quicker. And I know that there's a lot of things that probably are creating that, mostly that you don't want, if a deal's ready to close, you don't want the buyer to have any more time to change their mind or, you know, that kind of thing. But I also remind the staff that realtors are commission-based. And if we don't close these deals for them, some of these realtors may not be able to make a house payment, may not be able to make a car payment. So we have to be flexible to be able to move deals up.
There's a lot of risk on there. And it does. I mean, the more time that something sits, the more time that
has for a problem to show up.
For a problem to show up. And so I think it does. I think that is important. And so but I would also think is when I'm working with somebody, I want to know that they're motivated to get the deal closed. Not take my head off, not take advantage of me. You know, so that's just work with people with good moral compass.
Sure.
But yeah, you want someone who, do you want to go to the brain surgeon who's driving the Ferrari and the Porsche, or do you want to go to the heart surgeon that's driving a Geo Metro?
Right. Right.
Not paying his bills.
Right.
But yeah,
Right.
you want the
Exactly.
successful one.
Absolutely.
So it's the same thing. If I go to a doctor's office and they're like, "Oh man, my schedule's wide open," I'm like, I'm gonna go get a second.
Worried about that,
I'm gonna
right.
get a second opinion. I want the one that says I'm pretty booked up, but let me see if I can fit you in.
Sure.
You know, because it shows that they're successful. With
Well,
their
yeah,
work.
and you ask that, people say, well, Lisa, I can't close with you. You're too busy. I said, but do you not want a busy closer? That means I'm doing something right. You
Right.
know, busy's
then
not bad.
Yeah, but I am an owner, and you're going to get the same level of service that and the other, and it's
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, okay, so talking about real estate and how it's changed, how you've been in the business 20 years, 25 years?
You really going to make me say this on tape? I've been in the business, I'm getting ready to be in the business 38 years.
38 years. So what are some of the biggest things that you've seen? You've mentioned a few things here and there. Biggest thing that you've seen change in real estate in our market in the last 38 years?
Oh, the biggest thing was we became computerized. I mean, now you laugh about that. It's funny, but it's true. I mean, back when I first started closing, we hand typed everything. We had forms from the office supply store, form deeds that we had to go in and type everything on, you know, and we did the settlement statements on a typewriter. So if somebody called with the last minute change, you were doing a whole new settlement statement on a typewriter.
Oh my goodness.
We had fax machines with that paper, that thermal paper that would
Yes.
fade over time. So I mean, people are like, you know, digital or all this computer stuff is going to work you out of your business. No, it's not. It's going to make you do things more effective. I have no regrets about the way things have progressed. It has made me be able to be more efficient and do a lot more transactions.
Well, first listing agreements I did were the three. You had to write hard because you had to go. You were writing in triplicate.
Yes.
So
What about the MLS books? Remember those MLS
yes,
books? Did you?
just when I started, they were
Yes.
MLS was just starting to phase
The
out.
big books you guys had to get and look at those, and then they'd be stale dated like a few days later, wouldn't they?
Yeah, and we're talking about older stuff, but I think
Sure.
what it is, it's like you think people. I think when the internet came out and all the stuff was rolling out, they talked about for sale by owners are going to skyrocket and replace real estate agents. You know, there's going to be more for sale by owners because they can do it themselves. And I think percentage-wise, it's gone down 1%.
Wow.
So I think it was like in the 9s back
Wow.
when I first started, and now it's like in the high 7s, low
Right,
8s of
right.
amount of homeowners that do for sale by owner because everyone thought the internet and digital
Was
would
going to
make
make
things,
people not want you guys anymore.
make it easier.
Yeah, right.
When in fact it's made it harder.
Sure.
You know, and I think that's as everything progressed. You know, think about how real estate has progressed. It costs more to list a house today than it did when I started. The margins are smaller, way
right.
smaller. You know,
Right.
well, yeah, I used to go out with a little cheap camera
And take pictures. Yeah.
I remember buying the first digital camera, like the big wide angle lens,
Right.
and everyone in my office was like, "What is that for?" And I'm like, "Listing photos." I'm like, whoa! And now that's common,
Right.
You know, and so I think that's What else? Anything else like more recently? You think it's changed a lot in the industry? That causes the biggest challenge for buyers and sellers, agents.
Well, you know, everybody talked about TRID and how that was going to affect everything with the, you know, the delivery of the closing disclosure 3 days, that there was a hard rule and nobody would be able to get around it, but people have gotten around it, you know, but I do think that it's better all the way around with buyers getting their numbers and having more of an idea of what kind of product they're getting. I know in 2008, when things got really bad, of course, Oklahoma's kind of in a bubble. It didn't hit us as hard as it did other places, but I sat across the table from so many buyers that were doing the 80-20 loans, 80% first, 20% second, with these ARM rates that would change in 6 months.
Yeah.
And they were doing these because they didn't have any money, and, you know, stated income loans, no money. And they were buying $400,000 and $500,000 houses with not bringing any money to the table. And I'm like, this is, you know, just sitting there on my side, because I have to stay super neutral. I'm not the lender. I don't know the, you know, but sitting there and like, these people are going to not have this house in a year because they don't really truly understand what kind of product they're getting, you know?
Yes.
So I think that TRID really helped with that. You know, people know.
I think that's hard, like in our industry. I see that often where agents become counselors and financial consultants, and
We
they're
have to stay in our lane, though.
they're telling like, I just don't think this is a good deal, or I don't think this, or not a good deal, but I don't think it's a good idea for you to purchase this home this way. And I'm just like, we might have that's not our role. I mean, I'm not trained to be a financial planner. I don't have a degree in accounting. I don't have a degree in financial planning, and so I just listen. You know, and I present the numbers and I present the
Right.
you know, I let
These are the facts.
Here are the facts. I let the lender explain what's going to happen. I let the title explain what's going to happen. You know, and I think sometimes when we get outside of our role, that's more ego. And it's not trying to, because we're trying to close the deal, but somebody comes to us with I want to make this purchase. How do I make this work? And I think that's...
You asked me, one of the best things too about being an owner of a title company is the ability that we have to educate. We have a lot of continuing education at Legacy, so many classes, and we are super passionate about educating realtors on different topics. So, I mean, we have a whole list, and Melissa does a really good job about doing those classes. That's one thing that is on my list for 2026 is being out and more doing some of that stuff myself.
I think that's so important. It's, you know, there's a lot of stuff that's done online. You know, we have I have a real estate school. We do online CE, and I start every course with, look, I know you're going to be tempted just to go through this as quick as possible, but this is really designed to help you be better at what you do. And it just amazes me the amount of times that people will come to me with a question, and I'm like, you should know this.
This is basic. This is real estate 101, right?
So, okay, so I'm going to transition a little as we kind of bring this in, but let's get personal a little bit. So, obviously, you're a business owner. Everybody knows that about you, but some people don't know. So, you're raising an autistic granddaughter.
I am.
So, how has that changed your approach on life and work?
You know, I'm going to preface this with, I am married to a man who's amazing, who changed his whole life to take care of these girls, gave up his career, and he's always been super supportive of the career that I had. We always worked opposite schedules so he could have the boys during the week when and then he worked on the weekends. But I think having Amelia in our life, I just look at things through a different lens. I mean, she's pretty fascinating. If you just look at her and you watch how she doesn't talk, but you can still see a lot about somebody and understand a lot about somebody who doesn't speak words, It's just been a beautiful thing to watch her. Now, is it where I thought I would be at 60, raising, 2 grandkids with my husband? No, but God had a different plan, and I'm just embracing it. We still are doing things. We still are traveling. We just bring her with us.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, she's done really good.
So what about patience, and how has it redefined normal in your life?
Oh, I think just with age you become more patient. I mean, not for me anyway. How's it redefined normal? I mean, our life is very structured. She thrives on a schedule. So, everything's about an alarm and a class and a therapy and a, dinner at the right time. If you don't feed her between 5 and 6, she's just very structured.
The world becomes undone.
Yes, it does. It does. It becomes undone. But, there's something to be said about that. I mean, we can all use a little bit of structure in our life.
I agree.
I mean, look at your structure. What's your structure, Peter? You get up at 4:30 every day.
I do. I have, I grew up with, my mom would make me these lists, and with the purpose of, as a child like mine, it was so that I can just be grounded for not getting everything done by a certain time.
Right.
And so I kind of grew up with this hate of lists, because I just thought they were just there to punish. They weren't there to assist me. They were there to, and so, but then I probably got into my 30s and I started to redefine, but like now that I'm almost 50 now, but I live by lists.
Is that because you can't remember things because you're almost 50? Just kidding.
Well,
Just
no, maybe
kidding.
a little bit. But no, I think it's just like, I have so many things going on.
Right.
So, and I think, well, it's not just that. It's like there's I tell people like building out this morning routine. Like I wake up checking off boxes. So I wake up accomplishing things. And I like everything that. But yeah, I just adding structure. I want to be the most successful that I can be. So I put myself in a program. This is what I do in the morning. This is what I do every day. This is what I do in the evening. These are my every time I have a big rock to do, it goes into a big rock list, and then it goes onto out of those big rocks, what am I going to accomplish today? And then every one of my company, I build out lists, and so every day I work through my lists. If something comes up in my email, I add it to my list and prioritize it. So yeah, I think we run from structure, I think, when we're younger, because we think it takes away spontaneity or takes away this, but I think
it doesn't have to.
It doesn't have to be, not at all.
It doesn't.
So, I had another question I wanted to ask, which is, well, this one might be for more personal people. What misconceptions do you think people have about raising an autistic child or someone with autism in their life?
I mean, I'm trying to think. I think for Stephen and I, as we've been in this journey with Amelia, we realize now that we were probably judging some people who had an autistic child that was acting out, and we didn't realize they were autistic. So it's made our eyes wide open. There's a lot more autism around than what you think. There's a lot. It's a big, wide spectrum, but I think we recognize it, and we are a lot more tolerant for situations. Just in general.
teaches you patience in all areas of life.
Absolutely. Not just with dealing with Amelia, but just in general, because you don't know what somebody else is going through. You know, it's cliche, but it's true. You don't.
Is there ever, like, in public, I guess this would be a question with somebody who raising someone who just finding out their child is autistic. Is there ever, like, how do you deal with, and I'm going to say it gently, I guess, but how do you deal with, like, what could be perceived as public being embarrassed publicly with outbursts? Or
right. So here's I'll tell the story really quick. When we figured out Amelia was autistic, once she was diagnosed, we were in Chili's. I probably shouldn't have, if you needed to edit that out.
No, it's fine. Chili's can deal with it.
We were in Chili's, and we were sitting at a table, and Amelia just had a meltdown. And there was this couple sitting in a booth beside us, and he looked at the manager and he said, "Can you please reseat me? I can't sit here by this awful child," you know, basically. And the manager reseated him, you know, and the manager came over and said, "I'm so sorry." And we're like, "It's okay." And he said, "No, it's not okay. People need to be," you know, I said, "She's autistic." So my son Blake was so upset about it. He didn't say anything, but at the end of the meal, he went over to the guy and he said, "I want you to know I just paid for your meal." Kind of he said, "My niece is autistic and your lack of tolerance was not okay," you know.
Well, hopefully that changed that guy's life.
Hopefully it did. You know, I will tell people pretty quickly if somebody looks at me and they're, you know, out of the corner of their eye and they're like, this is like the worst child ever. That's my fear, is people think she's just misbehaved.
Yeah.
And she's not, you know. I mean, yes, she still misbehaves, but most of the time it's because something's off, you know, or her pattern's changed, or, you know, it's just
and her mind just can't.
Absolutely. She just doesn't process things the way we process things. We will hear her burst out in laughter sometimes in the middle of the night. We're like, she's remembering something from the day that was funny. That's how long it takes her sometimes to process things. You know,
it's Tara and I. We had the opposite effect, opposite kind of experience, but it shaped me as well. I was in the Marine Corps still, and our daughters were probably 1 and 3, and we didn't eat out very often. We had no money.
Sure.
And it was one of the very few times we went out to eat, and we're sitting at a restaurant and we're eating, and just so we got done, this gentleman came over, this older gentleman. He said, "You know, when you sat down, I thought to myself, this meal is going to be miserable. This young couple with these 2 young kids." He goes, "I have never seen 2 young kids so well behaved in a restaurant before." And he's like, "That's a testament to your parenthood." And it kind of like, one, I couldn't believe the guy he just went and said that, but I'd never thought of that before. Like when we would come in, people would think young kids, young
can't
parents,
control
young
their kids. Right.
They're just be bad kids. But it made me focus so much more on being a good parent to those kids, but also, you know, with my grandkids, like having that patience too when I'm out in public with them, you know. So it's just like, or when I see other kids in public, because
I mean, they're always going to embarrass you. You know, they're always going to say something that is embarrassing.
Yeah,
you know,
I call it public discipline, which is where you can tell like when a kid's never disciplined, because when they get spanked in public or yelled at in public, they're crying not because they got in trouble, because they're super ass confused. Like,
right. Why are you disciplining me now?
You never do this.
Right.
So let me pull this with one final question, which is, if someone listening today is standing at the crossroads, personally or professionally, what would you want them to hear?
About me?
Or just but in life. Just if you were to give someone advice, so somebody comes to you and they're at one of those crossroads, like, I mean, you've had several of them. Taking in your 2 grandkids and raise them. You've had starting a new business. You've had do you grow the business?
Right.
And so these are all these little crossroads.
Sure.
So what advice, if somebody came to you with a crossroads?
I think you trust your gut. You take the leap. You know, you make sure that you've surrounded yourself, whatever it is, you know, in your life, whether it's personal or professional, that you have a core group. You need to be held accountable. You need accountability people, but you take the leap. You take the jump. You do the thing. Don't waste time.
Fantastic.
You know, that would be I want to know what you would tell him.
At the crossroads? I think I would probably ask him a couple of questions, but I think it would be the question of, what is the worst thing that can happen?
That's good.
And can you live with it? You know, and I think that's a question that Tara and I, every time that we do something in business-wise or we make a decision, we just ask her, like, what's the worst thing that can happen in this situation? And can we live with it? And then that's kind of like let's do it.
That's great. That's great advice. I have one question for you real quick before we go. So now that you and I have gotten to know each other better, and you know, it's been one of the greatest blessings of opening my own business, because we've been able to work together so much. But what do you think? How did you perceive me, you know, professionally versus personally? Because I try to be the same all the way around, but how did you perceive me?
I think I actually was telling Tara today, I said, Lisa has so much damn energy.
I do have a lot of energy.
And I said, I think that I just, so when we were, you know, we closed at that other company, we closed with a different closer, but you were the manager there.
Right.
And so it was, honestly, it was always the no.
Right.
And I was like, Lisa's very grumpy.
Oh, yeah. Right. Right.
But I think it was because of the perspective of always having to say no.
Right.
And I'm going to pause and just say, the number one question I get was like, why did you start your own brokerage? And the biggest reason I said, I needed to be able to pivot quickly in the business. I pay attention, I study it, and I can't wait for corporate to decide this form is
Takes
okay.
a long time.
Like, hey, I have an idea. This form will help do this, or I think we need to do this in our marketing, or I think we need to do this with our with this, and I can't wait. So I get that, but I think it was the biggest misconception. I think it was more just that. It was just actually the joy, positivity, and energy that you have. Like it's.
You didn't see it. You didn't get to see it.
I didn't get to see that, and but now that I see you in your role as running as. Unshackled, unchained, you get to that's no longer held back. And so I think that's probably the biggest thing that I've seen and I've enjoyed being a part of.
It's been great.
Absolutely.
It's going to continue to be great, right?
Absolutely.
Thanks for coming again with us. I'm so glad you guys were here.
It was a blessing.
It's fun.
So, thank you.
You're welcome.